Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Fantasize. Its 5-year mission to finish a 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour.
Hello once again, and welcome back to another haphazard recording with your host, Lance Reynard. Here to show that all of the good ones really aren't taken. And to give a short consideration to pride, greed, lust, sloth, envy, gluttony, and vengeance in all sorts of different ways. And so let's go ahead and get into today's production. And I'm going to begin as I end in hoping that we were less intelligent yesterday than we are today. Welcome to the Fantastic Voyage episode of a Haphazard Universe production brought to you by 20 Mule Team Borax. And this Fantastic Voyage movie was put out in 1966. Let's think about that. But let's not. It's just give you a few facts about it. It's a movie about people that are reduced, shrunken down, put into blood veins to destroy a disease that is inside of a human being. And they do it by scientific method, by dropping convertibles down shafts, and they do it with the military, having intelligent discussions. You're an asshole. I think you're an asshole. Concerned looks and space, well, seeming like ships floating through blood vessels, and miniaturized humans swimming around through good special effects. Extremely blurry because of the recopy I'm doing here just to describe the Fantastic Voyage. Pretty obvious. You got these globules attacking a woman all over. And that was Raquel Welch, by the way. And, of course, we have to throw in a little cleavage. And this is Donald Pleasance, or Pleasure Face, or something like that. Don, kind of a lizard dude. Anyway, you get the idea. The Fantastic Voyage is conditioning people and getting great special effects for upcoming space movies. As mentioned, this is 66, and we're going through the human body. So the concept is buried in this movie that to miniaturize. Now this is interesting. Why don't we make nanobots that do this, that fix things? Or nanobots that go attack the other nanobots, kind of a thing. The magic of... Right. So the special effects being brought in here. Some of the stars in this movie, Donald... See, now, if I go back, this guy is so lizardy. I hate to keep bringing it up, but look at that guy. Okay, maybe it's just my imagination. Arthur O'Connell, William Redfield... But once again, just the simple, fundamental, basic concept that Hollywood is projecting here is that we can, or, it's not that we can, but it's the idea that that concept needs to be planted first, that little nanobots can be created. So I say we make tattoo ink, well, anyway, that, that helps. All right, now I'm going to get into the next part of this. I wanted to interject the first segment. And, the information dealing with Morgellons, if you have heard of them, it is considered to be a paranoid delusion, but at the same respect, there are thousands of people that have these symptoms. I think it was possibly this one that had the information and data concerning the Morgellons disease and Joni Mitchell. Unconscious at her home, rushed to the emergency room, but for the nature of her illness is still unconfirmed. The incident Morgellons disease reportedly affects 13,000 people and growing in the United States as people learn about the symptoms of this strange disease. Now, people in the military and the information about it being sprayed and the tests that the government does on people is all a part of this. Because of what is in this, people, the presence of colorful fibers and filaments that sprout from lesions and appear under the skin. And so the symptoms of this Morgellon's disease are something that I have. Every individual single one of them: the biting and crawling on the skin, the chronic fatigue, joint pain, difficulty. I thought it was just the fact that I'm 180 years old, but apparently I have Morgellon's disease. Right, and so looking into this slow, unpredictable killer terrorist disease. And so the different viewpoints that it has been sprayed down upon us by the military, and there are people that have come back from the desert years ago. My brother was also one of those people out there in Sandy Land for, I believe, about 15 years, on and off, as a sniper. Let's see, but anyway, the median age is 52. And it ranges from ages 17 to 93 years old. A majority were female white, and more than half reported overall fair or poor health, while 77% said they had suffered from chronic fatigue. So, looking into the Morgellon's information, now there are a couple of sites that I will go into and show. And I have found a curiosity in one of these sites. Let's see, what was it called? All right, now this person here, now this is, of course, one of the, what you might call, creepier subjects. So here, this is MichelleX. Michelle is a gentleman that puts out a lot of information in great ways, really. It does a whole lot of editing in his work. And I would suggest going through some of these. And, you know, it is kind of creepy, some of the creepiest stuff I've ever talked about, but something that could use a look into, not from a paranoid viewpoint, but more from, you know, a considerative viewpoint. Logical, what can they actually do now? And a lot of it deals with what's been, you know, put into the skies, images that have come in from soldiers, little creepy stuff that gets in and under the skin, and created by the government. So here we go. A Desert Storm soldier left to go blind, and Morgellon's infection ravages his body. The VA pretends it doesn't know these men and have a highly toxic situations. Even so-called help has infected these, such as the pill for gas attacks has hurt more than any gas attack. And this goes on about the list of what is done. So war is a lie, and war is for blood sacrifice. So just projecting or showing some of the information about the Morgellons, details, and people that are more attuned and akin to talking about it than I am. And now I know this woman here, Tavares, I believe her name is, Deborah Tavares, really talks a lot about the different conspiratorial details of our universe. And in this one, she's talking about the origins of water. StopTheCrime.net's not the first time I have advertised her, or, you know, because of the content and the way that she delivers her content, and of course because it comes up in my most suggested videos. So I wanted to bring up these two and get back into the next part of this issue.
Be pleased with this whole.
And this is a good mention. This gentleman with cancer on his face, as you can see right here, with the use of medical marijuana, the cancer was taken off of his face, or I should say dissipated, disappeared, and was destroyed with the use of marijuana. Here's the before and after that Martin Liedtke put out in a production just a couple of days ago, in which he was also kind enough to give me a shout out on my channel, which is super duper. As a matter of fact, I think it's just directly after this portion right here. As a matter
Moment there, Lance Reynard. haphazard productions. We love Lance's stuff. So
Thank you, Martin. And I love your stuff too. Now I'm about to show some of Martin Liedtke's data that he's going through here with the NASA images. He has a mass amount of images from NASA. I think it would be fun to banter back and forth and, have one person say, look, well, see, that's high-tech stuff, and then the other one point out the actual details that the high-tech stuff has splits and gaps and missing screws and headlights from a 57 Chevy and so many laughable little details that are obvious and easy to point out in these images that Martin shows here and goes through. And so at any rate, I wanted to bring up a little bit of the outer space. Now, there's a mass amount of images that Martin Liedtke has here. And I always love to look at the old images and the architecture and, make considerations like every other one of us. However, the details of, the fakery that is so obvious. I hate to be too overly one-sided, but when you zoom in tight on some of these details and look at the washer on the side of this guy's helmet and consider the actual details, like this tire track banging into a rock, or how did it... the tire tracks obviously curve around here. The curiosity is it jumped over this rock without jumping over the rock. Little teeny things, curiosities to bring up, not to just totally disavow everything, but to look at the obvious. The prints of the shoes, that's another one that I think is great, and I should probably go into taking a look at, how this image, all the little things that are just askew, and the third person in the background and the reflection when there's only two people there. Really? Okay. The type of weld and, wires exposed, and okay, yeah, that's pretty high-tech stuff you got going on. It's all ripped up and tin-foily looking stuff, and I can't help but giggle at the crunched-up tinfoil and little things stuck on the end of this and that, and then CGI'd onto a background. Very, very poorly done in these days, and those, in the days that they were, I'm sure, put together. Of course, maybe they are these days. So I wanted to bring up Martin Liedtke in this episode and thank him for showing some of these, because it is fun to go through and kind of closely investigate things, and if not only bring up, minor details like a lack of any dust here, and just so many things that have been brought up. The shadow going toward the astronaut and the shadow going, 45-degree difference over here. Laughable curiosities, you might say, or I might say. Maybe that's not a shadow. It could be a ridge, justified as a ridge. Love the tinfoil. There's just so much about these things I just think are great. And then the obviously real background with no stars, the stars don't show up out there. And how'd you get this huge vehicle into that little, what's perspective? So it's a lot of fun to look at some of these laughable details and and also not get too severely heavy about things. Serious consideration is important. And just shucking things off is not important, is not what I'm doing. It's to have you take a look at both sides of things and consider which one's more important, which one's more real, obvious, and evident. Alrighty then, into the last part of this unique episode. And so in the bottom line final case analysis, I believe that these, I come up with a lot of funny things, you might say, or I think they're humorous and I talk about them. But I find that later on my funny was becoming true or coming true. And it's not, necessarily funny, but what I find is the curiosities for the days that we have here in these times, and how we respond and react to what we have to work with, each one of us individually. And that is really impossible for me to predetermine. But I can bring up ideas that might avert other problems that we have. And I think the best idea I came up with this one, man, there's a lot of Illuminati symbols here. At any rate, our social conditioning is always something I bring up, and finally found one I could click on and look at. If we put nanobots, the best idea in this entire production is putting nanobots in tattoo ink to protect ourselves, protective nanobots. If somebody were to even just say they invented it, I shouldn't bring out the deception of it, but it could be, so be aware that, like if I were to offer nanobots that would attack any incoming, so you'd have little nanobot wars going on with the ones the government's giving us from the water, sky, by whatever means, and then our tattoos having, good nanobots, helpful, generative, positive nanobots that would attack any others. As mentioned, you can see the social conditioning by the types of tattoos. And so that is the bottom line final analysis of this particular production for ideas. Give you some ideas, and not just creepy ones, but more positive, generative ideas. Because let's hope that, yesterday or years before, we were less ignorant than we are today, each individual one of us. Think about that for a minute. And, I try to stay away from the basics: envy, pride, greed, lust, sloth, gluttony, and vengeance. I try to stay away from those vicious destroyers of individuals. And so, being kind to each other, getting good ideas and generative, creative ideas is part of the Haphazard Universe production. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back again with more curious ideas, a little less creepy, and but we do need to talk about what is going on all around. And bit by bit, I will do that in each production, 20 minutes at a time, or 40. And so, in finality, the hopes that I have created a production worthy of being buried by the YouTube algorithms. Feel free to share with anyone who has interest in these types of ideas and this type of information, and possibly give some credence or details to that which we consider here in this strange little universe that we live in. Thanks for playing, and we'll talk to you soon as time permits. Adios, amigos.